Hey friends. Well, I after I did my post yesterday, I had a lovely day. I drove up to Santa Fe, saw my brother and his kids and his wife, and my other brother and his wife who just came in town. It was my sister. It was a very nice kind of holiday reunion. And it's so interesting because I've been reflecting what I described in yesterday's post. It showed up again big time today in a way that I'll describe. But basically, there's this way in which I've been observing this feeling, an emotion. Like yesterday, I described it as my emotions auditioning the thoughts to see what thoughts play the role of Robin's righteous indignation particularly well. Well, I was granted a bunch more of those overnight. And I found, what I noticed was the thoughts are always changing. The thoughts are always, they're always new, but the emotions are not. The emotion it's almost like if you imagine going through life with every physical surface in the world being a projector screen and just projecting an image that resides within projecting it outside. That's what my emotions are doing with my thoughts. There's a feeling, and it's like it's using everything I'm thinking about, whether I'm thinking about my experiences, whether I'm thinking about my philosophical idea. And that's the interesting thing, is it doesn't matter whether I'm thinking about a relationship or an experience or an idea, like a philosophical idea or a political view. It's all those things can make equally good candidates for this emotion to be felt. And so anyway, that's kind of, if you've been watching my posts for the last couple of days, you've heard me say that any number of times. What showed up today, there were kind of, I guess, two things that happened that were really interesting. I started listening to Alice Walker's The Drama of the Gifted Child. And I had started this book a couple weeks ago, but on the drive down from Santa Fe, I listened to probably, the second hour of the book, maybe, like starting from an hour in or so. And whoa, was it ever big, and was it ever related to what I'm clearly looking at right now? Because basically, I don't purport to be summarizing the book right now, but basically what I got from what I heard on the way down was there's this way in which when the child is unable to be mirrored by the parent, in other words, if the child's emotions and needs are not held within a context where it's safe for the child to experience them, then what happens is the child automatically and unconsciously delivers to the parent whatever the parent is looking for. The parent ends up projecting onto the child, and we all get our own needs met through our children. Whew. Big stuff, which, again, I've done an entire year almost of posts on this, and I've certainly talked about this before, but it just brought that home again, and it really just reminded me what a kind of process of evolutionary growth over generations we are all involved in. On one level, we can, it's always easiest to kind of criticize your own parents because you're closest to them. You're the child who came out of them and got to watch them up close and personal as we mature. But this is not a one generation thing. This is generally a lineage thing. There's a whole an unbroken history back into the recesses of time of this process taking place. This isn't something that just started happening when we came around to having an understanding of it in modern psychology over the last 100 years. It's been happening for millennia. So, and the fact that we didn't even really understand the mechanics of it for so long means that it was just kind of running the show. There was no questioning that. There was no self-examination happening in the parent going, maybe do I want to project my unconscious needs onto my child? Am I even doing that? What are unconscious needs? What's unconscious? What's conscious? What is any? There was none of this. Wasn't online. I mean, there was of course there were philosophers talking about who were going to levels of abstraction about their emotions and their thoughts, but we didn't really have a mechanics for this in general culture until pretty recently. Maybe 100 years. So anyway, but the upshot of this book seems to be, the drama of the gifted child. It's how she had just gotten to the part where she was talking about how achievement is the false love that is chased incessantly by the child who doesn't know who they are, basically, whose own. It's like there's something that she said something really interesting about when you are not permitted. Well, in healthy development, a child is permitted to have their feelings. In other words, whatever they're feeling, it's not that the feelings are good or bad feelings. It's that all feelings are allowed. So in other words, a child in that context can feel fear. And it's okay to feel fear in a fearful situation. A child can feel sad. And it's okay to feel sad in a situation that makes them sad. It's when our feelings are not allowed. That's when all hell breaks loose, because that's when we start manipulating what we are feeling based on an effect we're trying to elicit from another person, i.e. our parent, in order to get what we need from them, in order to engender their love, in order to make it feel like they love us, which is our most primal need as a young being. So when those feelings are not allowed, we twist ourselves in all kinds of contortions, trying to feel the right thing about our feelings. And there's this sense in which just being ourselves is never enough. It can never be enough to just be ourselves, because whatever we are is not allowed. And there was a beautiful sentence. Let's see if I can remember it. It was because she said something about how this will remain insatiable. People like this remain insatiably in pursuit of things that of admiration. We remain insatiably in pursuit of admiration, because admiration is the false love. It's the thing that it's our proxy for love, because we don't actually even know what real love is. And she said something like, in this case, is self-worth. Self-worth is always fragile until it is no longer until it is based on the authenticity of our own feelings, and not the achievement of, or the admiration that we receive for our achievements. In other words, self-worth is the natural state of being permitted to be ourselves. And being permitted to be ourselves means being allowed to feel everything we feel, not needing to censor our internal feelings, because where did we learn to censor our internal feelings? Well, we learned that back when certain feelings weren't allowed and other feelings were encouraged. Unconsciously and generally non-verbally probably encouraged, but nonetheless, that's what was being sought. And all of this ties in because at some point I started going, well, I've seen the mechanics now of this emotional body auditioning my thoughts for what it wants to project onto, and FYI, it's also auditioning circumstances. It's also looking around the world going, where can I feel this? Where can I get myself felt? And I started asking the question, where does that feeling come from? Why that feeling? And I'm not really interested in going down the rabbit hole of figuring that out right now. I don't know that would be productive. I think that it's productive to know that that's happening. I don't know that it would be productive to spend a lot of time trying to trace that particular feeling to an event or some sort of, origin point that I could define and recall. That may happen. It may come into my awareness very naturally, but I don't know that it feels important to me to go trying to follow that thread. But it does feel very significant to acknowledge that, and this is the feeling that I had as I was listening. I realized, oh wow, I really do have a sense that my feelings are in a cage. I'm not supposed to feel certain things. I'm supposed to feel I'm supposed to feel other things. There's things I'm supposed to feel and things I'm not supposed to feel. Supposed to, from on high, handed down by God, as far as my psyche is concerned. And so, in other words, there's something very specific that I'm projecting onto the world. It's not chosen at random. And when I recognize that sense of like, oh, these are feelings in a cage, Alice Walker talks about the pain and then the rage generally that results when we realize how we haven't been allowed to feel our feelings. It's so interesting to observe that, like, this is where I take it back to the lineage thing. Of course, in within a family, this often comes out as friction between family members, right? Friction between children and a parent, or a child and a parent, or whatever, But you zoom out off that, and it starts to look like I'm reckoning with the karma of an entire string of these successive generations, of these successive imprintings. And I think the way to freedom from that is to what the other real kind of like powerful thing she said was, the only thing that heals is grieving what was not, grieving what was lost, or grieving what was the word she used? She says, grieving the thing that was missed, and missed at a crucial time. In other words, the grieving of something that you cannot go back and fix. You cannot go back and fix what happened when you were 3 years old. It's over. There's no going back. But I found that such a powerful comment to say the only thing that truly heals is grieving the thing that cannot be fixed and that happened at a crucial time. Grieving the thing that was lacked at a crucial time in our development. And that's something that I know I have a certain amount of resistance to, a certain amount of, I never want to admit that it can't be fixed. But actually admitting that it can't be fixed is the healing. That's massive. That's massive, because that builds into the process the notion of the impermanence of the universe and the notion that there's the relationship between infinity and the finite. Within the finite world, we can't fix everything. That grief is the healing. That was a huge thing for me today. I'm gonna keep them coming. I'm sure I feel like I'm on a train here, so I'm sure you'll be hearing more. This is a really interesting investigation that's happening, and my God, thank you for having the conversation with me. Thank you for engaging. So much love. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.